On First Alert Weather Extra, we update you on tomorrow's First Alert Weather Day. We're on your side with where the greatest chance for severe storms will be and how much more rain could fall. Plus, a look ahead to what the rest of the weekend has in store. And as we approach the 10-year anniversary of Snowmageddon, we break down why the event was significant in terms of winter weather forecasting and what went wrong.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Welcome into First Alert Weather Extra on this gloomy Friday. But hey, we made it to Friday. We got that going for us. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan in for Chief Meteorologist Wes White this evening. Thanks for joining us here on our 30-minute all-weather show. And my goodness, has January been pulling out all the stops when it comes to active weather. So we want to get a look right now at what we're dealing with as we go into the weekend. First of all, we've gotten some really beneficial rainfall thus far this week and really this month in general, but there's still more on the way as we get into tomorrow when we have a First Alert Weather Day in place. So there's still a flood watch in effect across central Alabama. This is until 6 p.m. tomorrow night. This is accounting for at least an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall with this next round of storms coming in tomorrow, and that could result in some localized flooding. Bear in mind, we've already got very saturated soils across our area with all this heavy rain this week. And just look at January in general. I wanted to show you just how much rain we get on average in January, about almost 5 inches of rain across Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Anniston. But look at that bottom number. That's how much we've gotten this month and this year alone. So almost 6 inches of rain have fallen this January in Birmingham so far. Over 7.5 inches of rain in Tuscaloosa and Anniston. So we're actually going to end the month with a surplus of rainfall, and we're not even done yet. So this is going to be very beneficial to the drought that we've seen across our area. We'll get that updated drought monitor next Thursday. But in the meantime, with that benefit comes also potentially some problems. So with that First Alert Weather Day tomorrow, notice there is that possibility of a few strong to severe storms in the forecast. There's going to be 2 rounds of storms. The first round that we see, that's likely going to be some widespread rainfall and some embedded thunderstorms. I think the severe threat will be low with the morning storms, but by the afternoon, I think this is when this could come into play. The outlook from the Storm Prediction Center highlights a level 1 out of 5 risk and a level 2 out of 5 risk across our area, where you see the yellow here. In areas along and east of I-65, I think the ingredients would potentially be a bit more favorable by the middle of the afternoon into the early evening to tomorrow to support a few strong to severe storms that could produce some strong wind gusts, a brief weak tornado, or possibly some small hail. That flooding threat more so during the morning hours. The thing is, this is not guaranteed. If we have a situation where that rain comes through tomorrow morning and it cools things off and stabilizes the atmosphere and the atmosphere can't recover, then that severe threat, not an issue tomorrow afternoon. But if it is, that's why we're giving you that first alert. So for this evening, your Friday evening plan is going to be nice and dry. But as we go into the overnight hours, we get past midnight, we begin to see that first round of rain moving into northwest Alabama. This is going to gradually crawl its way eastward through the morning, and it's going to be some pretty heavy rainfall. Now, it's not out of the question tomorrow morning. You could hear some rumbles of thunder and see some lightning. But our main issue with this batch, it's going to be wet and soggy. The roads are going to be gross in the morning. You don't want to be out in this because it could certainly make for some dangerous travel. Then we get that lull early in the afternoon. That afternoon lull, that's when we have to watch for those breaks of sunshine, because if that happens, then that secondary batch of storms could arrive that could bring that severe threat. So it's a very conditional threat. We're keeping a close eye on things as always. But you know, with all the crazy weather we've been having recently, homeowners in Shelby County are frustrated after dealing with flooding issues this past month. People along Highway 119 tell us that their driveways and yards have been underwater. Our Anjanae Robinson spoke to a homeowner today and joins us now live. Anjanae, what can you tell us?
Well, Lauren, I spoke with homeowner Garland Ernest, who tells me that it's already flooded 3 times in her neighborhood. And 3 weeks ago, her front yard was basically a lake.
The lake was not part of the property.
Garland Ernest and her husband bought the house back in October, and although the flooding has subsided, this is what their front yard looks like after it rains heavily.
With the amount of rain that comes in, it causes a huge problem for us.
Luckily, there's a rock garden built on the property that stops the water from traveling further up their yard, but Ernest says it fills up about 8 to 10 inches.
Can't get out of the driveway. You know, I couldn't get her to school that day. I couldn't go to work. So it's a major problem.
Now, their biggest concern is for their mini pony named Ollie, who stays in the front yard.
It affects his grass, his eating area, his grazing places. And so, you know, it impacts us tremendously.
Ernest started a nonprofit for a therapy pony, and they bought this property to house Ollie and eventually built a barn to house him and additional ponies.
I'm not going to be able to have shelter for him. He can stay in what we temporarily put up, but that was because we did that when we bought the house. The intent was to put the barn right in the center there, and it can't go there.
Now, Ernest says it takes hours for the water to subside and is starting to become costly cleaning up the debris that's washed into their yard. They also worry about it being dangerous for drivers along 119. Now, I reached out to Shelby County leaders who tell me that they're currently looking into the issue. We will, of course, continue to check back in with them and provide more updates as more information is available. For now, reporting in Shelby County, Ajane Robinson, WBRC, Fox 6 News, on your side.
Thanks, Anjane. And as the state of emergency in Hamilton continues, some neighbors tell us they are now catching rainwater just to get fresh water in their homes. Our Brian Henry spoke to members of the community on how this ongoing situation is affecting them and what the city is continuing to do to ease these woes.
It's come down to this for Robert Evans. Evans has collected buckets of rainwater and put it to good use. Every single drop that's fallen from the sky this week at his home in Hamilton.
We've strained and boiled a lot of it so that we can wash our hands.
10 buckets and containers enough to have collected 40 gallons so far. In spite of what many here say is a frustrating experience and not being able to use tap water, they recognize it could be worse.
The biggest lesson learned is attitude can make a significant difference.
More than a mile away at the Hamilton Fire Department, new pallets of bottled water keep coming in. And next door to the fire department, the UN Fire and Rescue provided a bulk tanker to supply water for folks like Kimberly Williams, who was in line waiting to fill up her jugs.
I have tried to be more understanding about it. I have tried to be more grateful and thankful through it all.
Hamilton remains under a state of emergency, and the do not drink order is still in place, along with the boil advisory. Assistant Fire Chief Matt McCracken appreciates the patience of those dealing with it and the ingenuity of being resourceful, such as Robert Evans.
I can't tell people that that is the right thing to do, but I also can't tell people that I wouldn't do the same.
I think the rain was the silver lining because I think.
And more of that silver lining is on the way. Rain is expected tomorrow in Hamilton, and Robert Evans will be here to catch it all. In Hamilton, Brian Henry, WBRC Fox 6 News, on your side.
Thanks, Brian. And across the nation in Illinois, ice jams causing a water surge in the Kankakee River. It's led to flooding in the city of Wilmington, southwest of Chicago, and caused people who live along the river to evacuate. This is likely due to a rise in temperatures. Temperatures were as low as 8 below zero over the weekend and rose into the 40s on Thursday and today. And in Washington, D.C., the Reagan National Airport set a record high temperature of at least, get this, 80 degrees. Man, we haven't even gotten to that here, making it a daily record for the nation's capital and the hottest day ever recorded in January. The previous record was 79 degrees, which was set in 1950. This also comes after D.C. had the snowiest weather it's had in years after 3 to 6 inches of snow fell across the area just a week ago. Across the pond in Australia, tens of thousands of people in the country are left without power today after a tropical cyclone hit overnight. Tropical cyclone Kira Lee made a landfall on Thursday as a Category 2 storm before being downgraded to a tropical depression today. The National Weather Service saying that, or the nation's weather service saying rather, that the storm still poses a threat with heavy rains and life-threatening flash flooding still being possible. Kira Lee is the second tropical cyclone in the area since December when Cyclone Jasper caused widespread damage. And in 30 seconds, we're back in Alabama as we talk about a winter event that will never be forgotten. We'll be right back. Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Let's get a look at First Alert AccuTrack tonight and widening out the view. So you'll notice over central Alabama, you see that feature there? That is a stalled front that's been hanging out over our area today, making the winds fairly light, kind of gloomy, kind of cloudy, just dreary outside. Could be worse though. And it will get worse tomorrow. Here's why. That's our next big thing, a storm system over Texas. That is going to be combining with this stalled front, and that energy, that disturbance is moving our way tomorrow, bringing widespread rain by tomorrow morning, then potentially a second round of storms for tomorrow afternoon, which is why we have a First Alert weather day in place. Right now though, for your Friday evening plans, not too shabby. I wish it were a clear night, but at least it's warm. You don't have to bundle up if you're headed out this evening. Temperatures in the 50s in northwest Alabama, but the rest of us very mild and humid in the 60s under a cloudy sky. So no rain just yet, but for that hourly planner for tonight, we'll continue to see very mild temperatures. Winds will stay light for now, but they're going to pick up tomorrow. They're going to shift to more out of the east, or they're going to shift to more out of the south, and that's going to help to bring in that warmer, more humid air, set us up for that storm potential for tomorrow. So the possibility of severe storms, very different story though about 10 years ago as we continue to talk about the anniversary of Snowmageddon. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt takes a deep dive into that day and why things quickly went south.
Well, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years almost since the Snowmageddon 2014. Sunday marks the anniversary of Snowmageddon, when we had a surprise snow event and we had icy roads, probably one of the biggest civil disasters, one of the top ranking ones we've dealt with around here. Everybody leaving for the day, and all of a sudden roads start icing over, everybody trapped on roads out in the sub-freezing temperatures. This was actually a clip from that day, and this is the old Viper system that's been discontinued. We tracked a lot of storms with that system. Now we have First Alert AccuTrack, but that's what the radar looked like that day, and you can see at Birmingham at lunchtime it was 19 degrees, and that's one of the things is around here a lot of times when we're dealing with winter weather and dealing with snow, often it's right there 32, 31 degrees. Sometimes it's not cold enough for snow. Sometimes we don't have enough moisture, and what happens a lot of times around here is when it's really, really cold, a lot of the moisture just doesn't reach the ground when it's so cold and dry. So we end up in many cases where you see snow on the radar, but it doesn't reach the surface. And that was the thought process that day. We were confident that there was going to be winter weather down into South Alabama on that day. But what ended up happening is we saw the system, it developed further north. And while the precipitation rates from the snow, it wasn't like blizzard conditions, but it was just enough snow as the cars drove over the snowy surfaces there on the roadways. We had some partial melting, which it all just turned into a sheet of ice. Those roads, temperatures below freezing. And, you know, it's one of the reminders that when you're dealing with temperatures in the teens, any precipitation can cause some big problems, as we saw just last week with all the ice that developed across parts of our area. But we certainly learned a lot of lessons from that day, and it has certainly helped to improve our forecasting as we monitor winter weather events. But Snowmageddon 2014, you can certainly follow us all on social media, share your stories, and we'll be talking more about the long-range forecast and what's on the way coming up as we go beyond the 7-day forecast.
Well, speaking of snow, you've heard about skiing and snowboarding. What about snow skating? Check this out. A new sport that's gaining momentum here in the States and across the globe. It's often described as skateboarding on snow. Kurt Zapata, who turned his love for the sport into a business, says he loves converting skiers and snowboarders to the sport.
Ultimately, do you think I could do it? And I always say I have more, would you like to try this out? I just want to spread the stoke.
Zapata's board line is called -7. Still ahead, we continue to talk about this weekend's storm chances, as well as take a peek ahead to where we could stand with temperatures next week. We'll be right back. And let's get a look at that forecast as we head into the weekend. Right now, it is very warm outside, at least for late January. Check it out. Temperatures for a lot of us are in the 60s. We're at 61 in Columbiana, 57 in Pell City, 66 down in Marion, 61 here in Birmingham, about 58 in Haleyville, and 63 over in Heflin. So as we look ahead to tomorrow, we do have that first alert weather day in place. You got any Friday evening plans, though? Not going to be too shabby. It is mild, so you don't have to bundle up. First alert sky vision showing a cloudy sky here over the Magic City, and winds are calm for now, but over the next 24 hours, winds are going to be picking up as our next big thing, a storm system approaches. And spoiler alert, I'm sure you could have guessed this. Yeah, 100% chance of rain for tomorrow wherever you are. Likely that best coverage is going to be during the morning hours, and then we have that secondary shot of potentially another round of storms developing tomorrow afternoon. That's the one we want to watch for any severe threat. So let's look at that hourly forecast. It's going to be warm for most of the day, and it will be breezy. So you've got those winds shifting to out of the south. It's going to bring in that warm, humid air, setting the stage for some heavy rainfall and that possibility of some storms in the afternoon. So the morning hours is when we expect that best coverage, and then that secondary round possibly developing by the middle of the afternoon. Let's check out the futurecast here. Over the next 24 hours, as I mentioned tonight, it's going to be cloudy, quiet, and warm. But we get past midnight, we begin to see that batch of rain moving in from the west and slowly making its way into northwest Alabama. I know you look at this and it looks pretty gnarly. I'm not expecting as much of a severe threat with this. There could be some embedded strong storms, but the main threat with this morning round is going to be the possibility of localized flooding. That's why we still have a flood watch in effect until 6 p.m. Central Time tomorrow night. An additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of the rain we've already gotten with very saturated soils, that could certainly cause for some issues tomorrow morning. I look at this, and as a meteorologist, I'm telling you, I wouldn't get out in it. I would sleep in tomorrow morning and then make sure you're paying attention to the weather tomorrow afternoon. We could see a situation where the atmosphere doesn't recover from that morning rain. No sun peeks through, and we're good to go for the rest of the day. Possibly just some showers that don't hold a severe threat. But if we do see a situation where the sun peeks through, then we'll have to watch for this secondary round of showers and storms, possibly re-energizing and producing that potential for a few strong to severe storms in the forecast. We do expect an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain possible as we get into tomorrow, but look what happens once we get past that next rain chance. Boom. We got some cooler weather back in the forecast by Sunday, and not just cooler. My goodness, I've never been so happy in my life to see the weather quiet as we're wrapping up January and headed into February. But before that happens, as we head towards the weekend, meteorologist Tania Michelle brings you a more detailed update on what you can expect and if you need to keep that rain jacket around all weekend long.
It's almost the weekend, and I know if you're like me, you're ready for it. The good news is that Saturday should be good sleeping weather for everyone. With the wet weather around, there could be some rumbles of thunder and some lightning with storms by the afternoon. Here's a look at our weekend forecast. We'll take it full screen for you here. 100% chance for showers at some point throughout your Saturday, with temperatures warming up into the mid to upper 60s. By Sunday, we will have some lingering showers by the early morning, but that'll all taper off by the afternoon and into the evening. Temperatures on Sunday are going to be cooler than Saturdays in the low 50s, and winds a little breezy throughout this weekend. So just be prepared for some breezy conditions. I do want to take you here at the next big thing and kind of walk you through when we're expecting those rain and storm chances throughout your Saturday. So I stopped the clock here at 7 a.m. on your Saturday. It looks pretty messy out there. Some of our models are indicating that showers could end earlier. Others are saying later. So keep checking in for forecast updates. I'll be around tomorrow morning with updated details on what you can expect for the weekend. And it looks like we can have a line of storms. It's fairly disorganized for your Saturday afternoon, but that can bring us the threat for some damaging winds, a low and severe threat for a severe thunderstorm, and of course heavy rain can't be ruled out. Maybe you're like Tania, I am not for us staying here in Birmingham or Central Alabama for the weekend. Let's go to the beach. So if you're heading to the beach, here's a quick look at that beach forecast. Looks like some wet weather is going to be around down at the Gulf Coast for Saturday, but drier for Sunday and Monday with temperatures a little cool. So they're going to be in the 50s. Maybe not the beach weather that you're waiting for, but I can guarantee you we'll be warming up hopefully soon when spring actually comes around. If you want more forecast updates, it's a great time to go ahead and scan that QR code on your screen to download the WBRC First Alert Weather app. It's a great tool to have to get notifications when that heavy rain is near you. You can get severe weather alerts, look at your future radar, daily and hourly forecasts, GPS location awareness, and you can opt in for the push alerts that we send right here ourselves. That's a look at your weekend forecast. Of course, more forecast updates right here on Weather Extra. Stay with us.
Thanks, Tania, and we'll be back with a final look at Weather Extra after the break. And before we send you off into your quiet Friday evening, I did want to show you one of the most gorgeous photos we've gotten on the First Alert Weather app today. How about this, taken from the University of Alabama Aquatic Center last night? Just an absolutely fiery sunset, and that made me want to go swim in that pool. I assume it's heated because y'all know it's been a little bit cold here thus far this January. Very warm for tonight, though, and it's still going to be warm tomorrow. Hence, you got warm weather in January, an unsettled pattern. We have a First Alert Weather Day accounting for that potential for some heavy rain, possibly some flooding in the morning, and then a secondary round of storms possible in the afternoon. And then breezy and cooler for Sunday, still staying cloudy. And then the weather next week, quiet. We're all looking forward to it. I hope you stay safe and sound this weekend. We'll have an update on the weather tonight coming up on First at 9. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Have a safe and happy weekend ahead.